Don't take this wrong, but it never even occurred to me that you might be gay.
Well, it never even occurred to me that you might be straight.
It wasn't easy to put gay characters on TV in the 1990s, but one show managed to be gayer than pretty much any other mainstream sitcom of the time. Frasier had two huge advantages when it came to LGBT inclusion. First, a ton of gay people worked on it, from the cast to the writers to directors. And second, its comedy hinges on misunderstandings, farce, and unspoken social taboos. And unspoken taboos just so happen to be something queer people know a thing or two about. All aboard and welcome to Matt Baum's Culture Cruise, where we take a deep dive on queer topics on TV, in movies, and books and games, and more. This time we're taking a peek at Season 2, Episode 3 of Frasier, The Matchmaker. Culture Cruise is made possible by the lovely folks who pledge their support on Patreon, folks like Mark Boeder. Thank you, Mark. If you're enjoying these videos, head over to patreon.com/mattbaum or click the link in the description to join the folks like Mark who make Culture Cruise possible. Like so many of Frasier's best episodes, it's a comedy of errors and manners that hinges on incorrect romantic assumptions. These kinds of comedies used to be much more common in decades past, when it was socially taboo to discuss topics like romance openly. But by the mid-90s, there wasn't much left that couldn't be talked about on TV. The one exception was queerness, still considered forbidden and risque enough to facilitate a screwball misunderstanding. Gay storylines were the secret ingredient for a perfect comedy of errors. All that was required was that a show be brave enough to broach the topic, and queer enough to get the tone right. The episode starts with Daphne lamenting the state of her love life.
You've been seeing a man?
Only when I close my eyes and concentrate.
Frasier is determined to find Daphne a date, but when his producer, Roz, suggests a few men, Frasier only manages to insult her.
You and Daphne are entirely different kinds of women. While Daphne is very shy and inexperienced, you are more, well, a lot more. Well, actually, be hard-pressed to find anyone who's more...
Oh, I get it. I'm out of here.
Oh, Roz, please,
No,
wait.
I can't stay. The fleet is in.
And Roz is still a bit miffed back at the office when the new boss pops by. Tom's the new station manager, just arrived, and Frasier makes a good first impression. Better than he realizes, in fact. When Tom mentions that he recently had a breakup, Frasier gets the idea to introduce him to Daphne.
I take it then you are unattached?
Yes, but I haven't given up hope.
Well, you may have come to the right place.
Really?
Yes.
And of course, Tom thinks he's flirting. What we're seeing, although Frasier doesn't realize it, is the dance of subtext that queer people have had to go through all the time. Especially in the 90s, there was a risk to openly identifying as LGBT, so queer people have had to employ subtle signals to communicate. Things like noticing each other's appearance.
Say, that's a beautiful tie.
Sharing interest in culture.
Yes, I love London. The museums, the theater.
Oh yeah, I'm a big theater buff, 3 shows a week.
100 years prior, queer people in England spoke in a dialect called Polari, which they used to communicate without risking violence or arrest.
How is Paulie?
She's had an anti-bully fake. Dyed her eye or her ends are right mess.
Anti-boner. I hope she vagaried straight to the crimper.
These days, it's not quite so perilous to be publicly gay. We don't need a whole second language. But even today, in most states, you can be fired for being gay. You can be evicted, lose your student loans, get kicked out of school. So no wonder Tom is cautious and uses signals to identify himself in a way that he could still plausibly deny that he's gay if needed. Of course, the problem is that Frasier's too clueless to realize what's going on. Having established some rapport with Tom, he invites him over for dinner, oblivious to the conversation that Tom thinks they just had.
He seems like a nice guy.
Oh, he's okay.
Well, I hope he's more than okay. He just asked me out on a date.
Misunderstandings like these have long been the backbone of sitcoms, and although Roz could clear up the whole thing with a single sentence, she's still annoyed at Frasier, so...
Oh, listen, Tom, there's something you need to know about Frasier.
What?
He's nuts about Chardonnay.
What follows is a standard Frasier dinner party of errors, where every innocent line is a double entendre.
That's a hell of a view.
It's even better from the bedroom.
Queer people have always had to live in entendre and become fluent in subtext for the sake of survival. As a result, we're always listening for the meaning behind the meaning, even when none is intended.
Yeah, I usually hang out at a place called Duke's. Great crowd, a lot of young cops.
Didn't ask Tom to dinner, so he'd end up talking to you all night in the kitchen. There are others who would like to have a crack at him.
This episode is able to deploy those double meanings so well because it was written by a gay man, Joe Keenan, it was directed by a gay man, David Lee, and the series itself stars multiple gay men, even though they didn't talk about it at the time. There's David Hyde Pierce, who would publicly come out years later. John Mahoney avoided talk about his sexuality, but outside of Frasier, he aligned himself with LGBT projects, and the actor who played Bulldog, Dan Butler, is gay, as is Edward Hibbard, who played Gil Chesterton. With so many queer people involved in the show, it's no wonder it's so fluent in gay misunderstandings. It's almost a shame when the farce finally enters the inevitable unraveling stage.
But I sensed that you had a problem with me dating Frasier.
Well, if you must know. I'm sorry, what was the question?
It's interesting that Niles is the first one to understand what's going on, and also that he instantly gets it. Though his character is presented as straight, he is very queer-coded. Not only does Niles conform to the gay stereotype of prissy fussiness, there's also a more genuine undercurrent of timid inhibition and self-restraint that mirrors the caution exhibited by so many closeted gay men. So, it's not surprising that Niles is the first to be taken into Tom's confidence. And unlike most sitcom characters who learn that someone is gay, he accepts it instantly instead of going through denial.
Well, that's impossible. Tom is not gay. He seems to be under that impression.
With the dinner party breaking up, Frasier finally realizes what's happened, and he has a little gay panic.
You're cute when you're nervous.
Well, I must be downright adorable now.
And then we get to the misunderstanding that is the basis of the episode's farce.
Don't take this wrong, but it never even occurred to me that you might be gay.
Well, it never even occurred to me that you might be straight.
That confusion, the double meanings, the subtext, the potential for misunderstanding is a natural component of queer conversation. Because of the violence directed at LGBT people, we often have to talk in code so we can avoid detection, or to signal each other without anyone else noticing. That the subtext goes over the head of people like Frasier isn't a bug, it's a feature. Tom departs the dinner party with a few questions.
Does this mean your dad's not gay either?
No, Dad's not gay.
But Niles, come on.
And once again, there may be a double meaning behind his words. He's asking about Martin and Niles, the characters, but he could easily be asking the same about John and David, the actors who play them. Two men who had, at the time, chosen to avoid being open about their sexuality, and who were working in an industry where coming out could mean the end of your career. In 1994, primetime TV certainly wasn't ready for a conversation about that. So you could take that line at face value and believe that it's only referencing the characters. You could plausibly claim there's no subtext whatsoever to those lines spoken by a gay character, penned by a gay writer, and crafted by a gay director. That's certainly possible. But for there not to be at least a little hidden meaning to the closing line of the show would be just a little bit queer. Thanks for cruising along with us, and thanks to everyone who makes Culture Cruise possible with a pledge of $1 or more a month on Patreon. There's some lovely rewards for folks who pledge their support. Head over to patreon.com/mattbaum or click the link in the description to check out some of the perks available to backers. Perks like early ad-free access to videos like these. Thanks again to Mark Boeder for making this video possible. And now, if you'll excuse me, these salads aren't going to toss themselves.